Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Dallas Social Toastmasters. This is October 8th, 2020, and we are, of course, Dallas Social, the Loud and the Proud. I want to go through a little bit of what we're going to be doing tonight. First of all, let me share. I'm not going to share everything tonight. Is that the one I want? Google Chrome. That looks good. Let's do that one. So I'm going to share the agenda. Of course, let's start off at our website, though. Our website is dallassocialtoastmasters.com. And from that, under the members section, you will find the very first link here in this rightmost column is current agenda. Current agenda, when you click on it, takes you right here, which is our agenda for tonight. Our agenda for tonight, of course, is Dallas Social Toastmasters. It's a piece of cake, huh? And although the pictures are a little bit small, you will notice that there is a small picture to the left, and there's another picture down here toward the bottom. Those are actually very fancy decorated cakes. I picked this because, well, October 9th, I almost picked International Pizza and Beer Day just because it was, well, International Pizza and Beer Day. For God's sakes, why not do that one? But I decided to go October 10th, which is Saturday, and Saturday has got Cake Decorating Day right there. So I thought I would give you some examples of some amazing decorated cakes tonight. And if nothing else, it's really good to have Cake Decorating Day on the same day as World Mental Health Day. I won't make any other comments other than just that. All right, so with regard to tonight, we've gotten all of our roles filled. We have a couple of speakers tonight. I'm going to be your Zoom facilitator as well as your Toastmaster. And for the most part, everyone should stay muted as much as possible, especially if you have distractions like dogs or kids or anything in the background. Other than that, if we need to, we'll try to mute you. Rob is also acting as co-host. If you have a problem and I'm busy with something, Rob should be able to help you as well. He has the same godlike powers that I have tonight. I want to start off with, oh, and I hate to do this, but I really have to do it so that you might or might not be able to see it in the meantime, because I just flat can't hide it at the same time. But what we're going to do is I'm going to start sharing my screen again and show you some incredible cakes. And so we're going to do it right there. Hopefully you're beginning to see that. This is one of the ones that's in that upper left-hand corner. These actually, believe it or not, this is a cake that someone has decorated. And I just find a lot of these very, very fascinating in terms of how much work people were able to do and how much they were able to accomplish. This was the second one that I had toward the bottom. Yes, all of this is done with cake and icing. Quite impressive. One which is a cutaway cake, made to look like it was an electronic cake underneath the covers. Thought that one was pretty interesting and an unusual design. A lot of these take an incredible amount of both creativity and ability. The only thing about this one that tells you that it's probably a cake is the fact that, well, the syrup is just a little bit too thick. Most syrup doesn't stay that thick on pancakes. So that, once again, is a cake. Coca-Cola cans. You can almost see the irregularities in the can tops, but you can certainly see it in the one that was messed up on the right. Again, another amazing job. Yeah, believe it or not, this too is a cake. If you look very carefully at the lettuce, you can tell that that's not real lettuce. And the container for the fries and the M, clearly done with dough of some kind. Happy birthday, Scott. Yep, it looks like Amazon, but it cuts like a cake. I don't know whether or not this would be delivered to the front door and left there or not, but I thought it was an interesting one and certainly a very good, amazing example. Steak, fries, and tomatoes, all done with cake. One that's a theme cake, or Beetlejuice, and no, I'm not going to say the third one. I know better. One that is tacos. Once again, you can look at the lettuce and tell it's not really lettuce. Although I wonder if some of those tostadas, the little chips on the top, if some of those are really cake or if those are true chips. They almost look like true sliced chips to me. What really I like about this one is the exterior surface. It really does look like a Spalding basketball, but once it's cut open, the cutaway reveals at least 4 layers of cake on the top and 4 layers of cake on the bottom. I have a brother-in-law named Ralph. This was not something that we did for him, but he's going to get this one for his next birthday, just as a joke, in terms of at least the photo. The detail here, quite amazing. Again, the detail on this one, I cannot imagine how long it took to put together Oscar and the Grouch on the inside. This one I particularly like because of the initials MAS down at the bottom, which are my initials. I happen to notice that. But yeah, the T doesn't really count. It's out of line. A Halloween themed cake, if you happen to be into Halloween and Jason. One for a small child, Lego based. Lego seems to be a traditional theme with a lot of cakes. I've got a couple that are going to be Lego themed. One for somebody who has gotten just a little bit up there in years. You can make fun of somebody, make fun of them really well with a really nice cake. Sonic the Hedgehog. I really love the colors on this one. I thought this one was particularly well done. The shading on this one, some of this had to have been airbrushed. There is almost no way to get that kind of shading on a cake without doing some airbrushing. And since I airbrush, I really, really appreciated the look of this one. Tag the person you love. On the gross side, perhaps, and a little bit of the Halloween theme, but still very impressive. There are several cakes of this variety, of whether it's milk pouring out of containers, beer pouring out of containers, or something of that nature. Obviously, there is some framework underneath that this one is based on, but just an amazing rendition. And of course, SpongeBob, Game of Thrones style. All right, with that, we're going to go do some duty holders reports, and then I'll come back and show you a few more. So let's go start with some of our duty holders reports. And for that, I'm going to have to bring up my information again. Let's start with Mark Sims. You're going to be doing the timers roll tonight. Tell us what you'll be doing as timer for us.
Yes. And as far as those cakes that are so incredible, if I paid $100 or so and got one, I'd probably drop it on the way out of the store. So probably too rich for my blood. And I apologize for coming on late. My Tuesday night Toastmasters group literally starts at 7. And so I got 7 and 6:45 confused in my mind. As timer, I will keep track of the various things that we time in the course of the evening. For example, the prepared speeches, I saw one of them is from 3 to 4 minutes. The other is 6 to 8 minutes. When a speaker hits his or her qualifying or minimum time, I will display this green card. When a speaker is halfway between the minimum and the maximum, yellow. And then when a speaker has hit the maximum time, I'll display a red card, and they will have 30 minutes to finish up. We, in addition to timing the speeches, we'll also time the table topics, which will last for a minimum of 1 minute, a very maximum of 2.5. And the speech evaluations, which have to be a minimum of 2 minutes, a maximum of 3.5 minutes. And so I will keep notes and then make a report when called upon during the course of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Mark Sims, just to clarify, so it sounds like Rob would definitely qualify this evening on time, because I believe you said they have 30 minutes to wrap up.
I said, I heard the same thing, and I
minutes.
was going to say you were giving him the benefit of the doubt that he'd finish in 30 minutes, but
Well,
Hey, you heard it.
He really gets long-winded.
You heard it.
No, please, no 30-minute speeches.
What?
Yeah, when you see the red, you get 30 seconds, not 30 minutes.
30 seconds. Well, there you go, Rob. I was trying to help you, sir.
I know.
Sorry, Rob, no
If
cigar.
he hadn't spoken up, I'd be golden.
Okay.
All right, so tonight we're going to skip the posture bell. Thank you, Mark. We're going to skip the posture bell and we're going to go directly to the counter. Counter is going to be Rob Giles. Rob, tell us what you'll be doing as the counter tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. As your counter, I will be listening for ahs, also for ums, uhs, any long pregnant pauses that just don't fit in with what you're saying, not part of what you're saying. I'll also look for some other things like so, where it's not necessarily appropriate or needed. And then also phrases that people use a lot, which are, you know, or like, things that are conjunctions so that you can find your next word. Just anything that's not really part of what you're trying to say. I will go ahead and take notes on all of it throughout the entire meeting and give a report at the end of the meeting when called upon by the general evaluator. But during all the meeting, except for the prepared speeches, I will use this thing right here, which is a clicker. Hopefully you will hear that. Hopefully you heard that. And I'll do that again, anytime except during the prepared speeches. So if you hear that, know that you just said or ah or I may not catch you every time, but I'll do my best. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. All right, our next duty holder after the counter is going to be the vote counter. Vote counter is Karen Lee, and Karen, you have that in grammarian. Please go ahead and do vote.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, I am the grammarian and the vote counter today. That assign those duties as grammarian. I will be listening for interesting usages of the English language, such as words like, can't think of one good word. Let's see, quintessential. And I will also listen for slang words like ain't got no, dunno, so, you know, those kinds of words. And I will make notes and I will give my report when called upon by the Toastmaster. On to vote counter duty. As a vote counter, you all will go down to the bottom of the screen where it says chat. And when you're supposed to be giving me the votes for, let's see, best speaker, best table topics, best, there's a lot of, there's some dogs outside having a duel out there. Best evaluator, best of the big three, that's the Toastmaster, the general evaluator, and the table topics master. At the end, then you'll send your votes to me and the guests can vote. So just look for Karen Lee in the chat box and send me those votes. And I will take a count, keep track of it, and I'll give a report when called upon by Mr. Toastmaster. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thank you so much, Karen. At this point, what I would like to do, oh, please don't do that. Yep, it did that. I'm gonna have to restart some of the, 1 second. I have to get back to where I was on my presentation. And it did not really do what I had planned. All right. Actually, that's not what I wanted. That only did the one. Let me do the whole screen. It's much better with the whole screen. All right, go. All right, so now I got to get back to where I was. 1 second, sorry. That is the one bad thing about this particular app, and when you go into full screen, it's a pain in the neck. All right, so a few examples. This is Toastmasters. We have to give you some examples of what you should get a little bit of feedback on to maybe do better next time. This is a good example of that. Although I have to admit the rendition of doing this and the carving, however it was put together, is quite impressive. I will say that. This cake leaves a whole lot to be desired. It's there, it probably tastes great, but the sentiment could be expressed perhaps a little better. I really like this one. This one is very professionally done with a very sort of unprofessional message in the background for it. But that one was, oh, and trust me, I have left out a few that I just can't show here. We'll let it go at that. Never ask your sister to make you a birthday cake. It's usually going to be a bad choice. One for somebody who is getting up there in years. I thought this one was really, really cute for an idea for probably a shower gift or, you know, a baby shower. Thought this one was really amazingly clever, and everybody gets their own. One for turning 21. One for a breakup. One for the oh my God. There's a story behind this one, and I almost wish I knew it. The lettering, however, is very nice. Be very careful as you dictate the message, because otherwise you're likely to get exactly what you said. One other thing that's interesting about a lot of cakes is sometimes it's not always what's on the inside. I mean, the outside, rather. Sometimes it's what they look like on the inside. Example being Canadian flag, a planet with its core, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. I thought this one was really cleverly done. And we're going to top it off with, you have to do some wedding style cakes, some over the top cakes. I thought this one was one of them very much over the top cakes. And yes, all of this is a cake. If you look at the burger again, you can tell that the lettuce really isn't lettuce. I had to blow it up, but it's really not. One, if you're doing a Halloween theme wedding, I suspect. You have to have a groom's cake and a bride's cake, and the groom's cake might as well be themed to go with it. This one takes me back to wild green, let's see, what is it? Fried green tomatoes and the groom's cake that looks like an armadillo, except it's red velvet. So when you cut into it, it looks like roadkill. This is again another Lego themed cake in construction, which I thought was really, really clever. But finally, I'm going to end up, just as we do in Toastmasters, with one of the ones that I thought that was the most clever, an incredible amount of work, the best of the best that I found. The makeup kit, done in cake. Just absolutely incredible and very realistic. So I thought that that would be a good thing to do just tonight for a good example of what you can do with cake decorating. With that, once I can get this to stop, I'm going to go back and we will go to our prepared speeches of the night. First of all, a quick reminder to both of our speakers that your timer tonight is going to be Mark Sims. Make sure that you have Mark Sims visible on your screen, either by pinning him or by going into speaker view, gallery view, so that he's always ever present on your screen. Our first speaker of the evening is going to be John Vessels. John's evaluator is Rob Giles. Rob, please tell us what John will be doing tonight for his speech.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. John is speaking on a project in Pathways. It is one of the elected projects. It is to deliver social speeches. And the purpose of the project is for the member to practice delivering social speeches in front of club members. He I'm listening for basically well-organized, well-delivered speech with appropriate content for the type of social speech. And I'll be looking for some of those things. He is going to be speaking a toast, and I'll be looking at that in regard to some of those things. I'll specifically be looking for things that he excels at in this, some things that he may want to work on, and something that he could challenge himself with. And his speech is 3 to 4 minutes for Mr. Timer, as you already mentioned. And I hand it back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Rob. Yeah, again, just for our timer, just to make sure you did hear that, of course, it's 3 to 4 minutes, which is a slightly shorter time than usual because this is a specialty speech. Everyone, please welcome John Vessels doing a toast, John Vessels.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow Toastmasters. Tonight, I would like to present a toast to a member of our club that exemplifies the spirit of Toastmasters in our club, Dallas Singles Toastmasters, the Loud and the Proud. He's been a very important part of our spirit and continued success of our club. He comes to the rescue of our club in so many ways. He has been so instrumental in the success of our club. He is always upbeat, very giving attitude, and has always been a great source of inspiration for our club. His dedication to maintaining our image and interactions with the virtual world has made him absolutely indispensable to the health of our club in these modern times. I know he spends countless hours maintaining communications, keeping our website up and running, and presenting a great image for us to provide our outside view of the world, how we appear to the world outside. He has been instrumental too in creating these Zoom meetings so that we can maintain our interaction and maintain all our club meetings through Zoom, since we are stuck by the pandemic, not being able to host our meetings in clubs. Over the past 10 years that I have been a member of the club, he has been a constant inspiration and advisor to me. He always brings joy and wit and entertainment to our club. He's always very outgoing and just shows us everything that's great about Toastmasters. He's a constant source of entertainment. He regularly hosts additional social Zoom meetings for us so that we can spend time together outside of the structure of our club meetings to give us an outlet, since we're all restricted in isolation during this pandemic. Mark Schroeder, is the man I'm talking about. And I'd like to all have you join me in a round of applause as a tribute to a dedicated member, a bit of comic relief, and one of the strengths of our club. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Schroeder.
Oh, John make Mongo cry.
Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, John. Wow. I wish I actually lived up to 100% of that all of the time. I don't. I try, but I fall short a lot of that.
Well, you put on a good show.
I try my best. Thank you so much. All right, our next speaker for tonight is going to be Rob Giles. Are you ready, Rob?
I am ready.
All right. Rob's evaluator is going to be Tanya Howard. Tanya, please explain what Rob's goals are for tonight's speak.
Yes, Rob will be speaking from the Toastmasters pathway, and the purpose of his project is to practice using vocal variety to enhance a speech. The time for his speech is 6 to 8 minutes. And the title of his speech tonight is called Freedom. So please help me in welcoming Rob, who's speaking on freedom.
All right, thank you so much. Once again, timer, notice 6 to 8, since we're not five, neither one of ours is 5 to 7, which is more typical tonight. Everyone, please welcome Rob Giles with his speech entitled Freedom. Freedom, Rob Giles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members. A few years ago, I started planning a trip to overseas, a country called Ukraine. And when I was doing it, I decided I need to think about a few things that maybe are happening in Ukraine, find out some information that I can get regarding the culture, maybe a little bit, and maybe some of the aspects for my travel. And while I was doing the research, I found that there was this historically horrific, it was an incredibly tragic thing that happened to this country a long time ago, back in the 1920s, 1930s. And that tragedy was called Holodomor. And although it was extremely tragic, something else that I saw struck me and grabbed my attention. And that was that in Ukraine, you cannot say that Holodomor did not happen. You are not allowed to say that. It is illegal to say those words. That, I thought, wow, really? It was mind-boggling to me. I couldn't understand that. In our country, we have nothing like this. It didn't even occur to me that that still existed in the world where somebody couldn't say a simple sentence. It doesn't matter that whether it's insensitive, inconsiderate, or otherwise. It just never dawned on me that it was out there, that it still was out there happening. And I thought to our country, and I thought about our founding fathers and how insightful, how forward-thinking they were, how wise they were when in 1790, they added the First Amendment to the Constitution, which included the freedom of speech. Congress shall not allow abridging of freedom of speech. This is something that our country really thrives on. Any freedom thrives on. It allows for freedom of discussion. It allows for different thoughts to be expressed. It's something that we generally take for granted, but it's very important. It is something that where we can think about what we're saying, what we're visualizing, ideas, thoughts, and they may not be great, but we can talk to other people about it without fear of being oppressed or reprimanded. I don't know what created that amendment. I don't know what it was, but I can only imagine that it was the experience that our forefathers had prior to creating our country, where they felt oppressed from being able to speak, whether it was against the majority or whether it was just against common sense. In my view, that really didn't matter. And they had the foresight to think of that for our country and be a founding principle for us. So it is something that we have to think about, because when we are stifled in what we're going to say, whether it's something that might offend somebody or whether it's just a new idea. Think about the history of our country and think about some of the forward-thinking thinkers that actually express some of these things. Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King. If they weren't able to express some of the things that they expressed throughout the history of our country would be much different right now. We have authors and philosophers who, if they didn't think their thoughts and then present them, write them down and talk about them, the world would be different. Authors that just even provide entertainment. if they thought that possibly the words that they're writing were not going to be able to stay, that perhaps it would be burned, they would be ostracized, or possibly thrown in jail. Those are the things that we have to remember and think about and take for granted, or not take for granted, I should say. So it's very important. Freedom of speech is very important. It allows for honest dialogue and very in-depth and involved dialogue between people that have two different points of view. Whether it's facts, fiction, opinion, or even lies, it doesn't matter. We have to be able to express our views and our thoughts. And it's very much an example in what is going on right now with the debates. That's a prime example of what our country is all about. People be able to sit on the different sides of the table with different views, different ideologies, and to be able to talk about it and express it. People may say bad things to us, things that hurt us deep inside, things that could be hurtful or even hateful. It could hurt people that we love, but we must think about what could happen if we prevent that from being spoken. And that is a very slippery slope. We could end up losing some of our other freedoms. We could end up losing liberty or the pursuit of happiness if we remove this or prevent or oppress freedom of speech. I cringe when I watch the news, when I watch opinion polls, or when I watch even almost anything on TV now, because what is it? It's all these hateful words. I wish I never had to hear them. And I definitely wish that my nieces and my nephews would never have to hear them for the rest of their lives. And I hope that perhaps it tones down. But I believe that if we don't resist stifling those thoughts and those words, that our country is going to be coming toward an end, and the country that we love and know, the America that we love. I believe that it could eventually erode our liberty. And I think that our forefathers knew a few things. They knew that if we had the ability to discuss and have dialogue, that we could eventually take falsehoods and bring them to light as they are, debunk them. I believe that it allows, or that they thought that it allowed free thinkers to have creativity, people that could bring ideas from their infancy to some grand, amazing state. But like I said, I think that they also knew that it was critical for liberty to exist. And the only way was that for us to be able to discuss, even if it meant that we had to disregard our feelings for a moment and disregard our beliefs for a moment to allow somebody else to present theirs. During the debate last night, the last question was a great question from an 8-year-old. Her name was Brecklin. And the question was basically, why can't we all get along? And both of the people in the debate gave pretty good answers. Vice President Mike Pence said, our country is founded on free and open dialogue. And he actually referenced the debate. Senator Kamala Harris said, thanks to you, Brecklin, we have great hope for our country because of the way that you think. I want to leave you with 2 quotes. One was from Evelyn Beatrice Hall, who said that, I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. And there's another quote that I would like to say, and that is from The Hidden Dominion in 2017. Freedom of speech allows everyone the ability and the encouragement to challenge all beliefs. It presents the basic building block of every other virtue and human right we have. This is why free speech is such an imperative topic in modern society. It was hard fought for over many centuries. We can't ever stop fighting for it. For if we do, we will lose much more than just freedom of speech. We will lose our humanity. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, it's something definitely in the news, and something that, well, I personally fear one of the places that speech should be freest in some senses are college campuses, and they're one of the places working the hardest in some cases to restrict speech. Just amazing to me. You would think it would be exactly the opposite. All right, so we've had 2 speakers. I now have to call on a timers report for both of our speakers. Timer, Mark Sims, how did both of our speakers fare tonight?
John spoke for 2 minutes and 53 seconds, which is, I believe, within the 30 seconds grace period he has to meet the minimum time,
Yes.
since the speech was only 3 to 4 minutes. So John qualified. Rob did not qualify. He spoke for 9 minutes and 12 seconds, which is outside of the grace period for the maximum time. So I tried to help you out earlier, Rob, but don't work, buddy.
So yeah, you're unfortunately not going to get from 6 to 38 minutes. Sorry, Rob. But a very good speech nonetheless. Thank you so much. All right, that will conclude actually, we got to do a vote. Actually, no, we don't have to do a vote. Since Rob has been disqualified tonight, John Vessels will be our best speaker for the evening. With that, the next duty that I have is to announce our table topics leader tonight, and that's going to be Lee King. Lee, take it away.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. This evening, I thought that we would do something a little bit fun and a little bit different for table topics. Qualify, you do have to speak for a minimum of 1 minute, no more than 2 minutes. And you have to use word of the day, which I did not catch. Do we have a word of the day today?
Quintessential.
Okay. All right, so quintessential, you must use that word during table topics. And this evening, like I said, we are going to do something a little bit different. We are going to share cakes. I will give each of you 3 minutes to go on Google and find a cake that you feel best illustrates you as a person. And of course, I found this cake and I think that this is definitely fits me. As you all know, I spent most of my life working in the hospital, treating patients, and work as an occupational therapist, but I also, at the same time, teach other therapists. And this looks like an anatomy textbook, very fitting for me. So your job this evening will be to take the next 3 minutes, which I will provide you, and let you all know when your time is up. You'll need to prepare your picture on your computer. And then when I call on you, if I call on you, you will then need to display your picture, and you'll have 1 to 2 minutes to share with us why you feel like your selected cake that you are sharing with us fits you. So with that, I will start everybody right now on their 3 minutes. Go search for a cake.
And Lee, let me clarify. You say a 2 to 3 minute discussion?
No, 1 to 2 minutes.
1 to 2 minutes. Okay, I thought you said, oh, you're giving us 3 minutes to search. Okay,
Correct.
so typical minimum of 1, maximum of 2 minutes, 30-second grace period, and okay.
Yeah,
All right.
everything else with table topics is the same. It's just I'm giving y'all time to go out and find that cake that you're going to share with us that
Okay,
you feel fits you.
how do we get to Google? Do I minimize the Zoom screen?
Yes.
Okay.
And then
You
like
can
I
you
just
can either minimize, or up in the upper right hand corner, I believe you'll find view. And if you click on view, I believe you can just make it into a normal size window instead of full screen.
Let's see.
and then what I did is I just did a save image as, save it as a JPEG, and then put it on my desktop.
Save image as JPEG.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know.
Can we just share the image or no?
Yes, when I call on you, you'll share the image.
Is
If I
everybody
call on.
gonna do it? We all have to be prepared with the cake.
Yes. Because you don't know if I'm going to call on you or not.
Got it.
We'll go one more minute. I'll go ahead and, because some people were asking clarifying questions for about 30 seconds. We'll go another 30 seconds. Go to 3:30. All right. And with that, we will now, I will call on the first speaker. Devon, please share your cake and tell us why that cake fits you the best.
Lost my cake. All right, so move this over here.
Oh,
Can you guys see my cake?
We see it.
Yes.
Awesome. So thank you for that wonderful presentation and letting us know what we were going to be able to discuss tonight in our table topics. One of my favorite things to do is play Xbox online at night when I have some extra free time. And sometimes I like to battle royale in Fortnite. This describes my entire life. I've been gaming online since I was 11 years old, and I'm sort of a technology geek. So this describes my life. This describes me, and I'm one of those characters on top of that cake. That's all that I had.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Our next contestant for this evening, let's call up Dagan.
Okay. All right, so I decided to do mine as a background. So as you can see, it says, "Happy birthday, Merry Christmas." So a lot of y'all may know that, Christmas Day is actually my birthday. So it's, quintessential, that, everybody celebrates my birthday, which I love because, but the bad thing about it is, it's the same day, so it only comes around once a year. Whereas, somebody had a birthday, mid year, they have a birthday mid year, then again, celebrate mid year, then again later on in the year with Christmas, they have, two separate gifts. Well, no matter really what time, when they're born, they have two different separate parties. Get two different types of gifts. But when you have Christmas and birthday on the same day, sometimes people just give you one gift. But actually, I was kind of lucky, at least with my parents, that they made it two separate things on one day. I had Christmas in the morning, I had my Christmas gifts, then we celebrated my birthday in the afternoon, and I had another set of gifts for my birthday. So luckily, my parents did that for me. But of course, later on when I got older, if it was a more expensive type gift, then I may have gotten one gift. But other than that, yes, this is cake that represents me because it's happy birthday, Merry Christmas. Back to you, Table Topic Master.
Our next speaker will be Karen Lee.
Okay, I need some coaching on how to I have that cupcake on my desktop. So how do I get it in a JPEG? If it's gonna
Actually, you
take,
could probably just hit the green share screen. You should probably be okay.
share screen?
Yes. Right next to the chat, you'll see a button that says share screen.
There it is.
And just show your entire screen.
There it is right there. The reason I chose this cupcake, it's a bundt cupcake, is because when my mother died, in her eulogy, my brother-in-law said how grateful that she was. And so that's part of her legacy that she left with us. And so every time that I can, I try to remember people, especially like at the grocery store, at the people that I deal with in offices. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. And this is just part of her legacy that she has left with us. So this is the reason why I chose the Thanksgiving fall type of a cupcake. So back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
All right. We will have time for one more. And I'm going to give our guest, hold on 1 second. There we go. I'll give our guest, Portria, do you want to
Portia.
attempt?
Oh, I was not expecting to go tonight.
Fine. That's totally fine.
That's fine.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay.
I will actually go ahead in this case and call on Mark Sims.
And the best that I could do in this, it may not be visible at all. I just looked this up on my phone. You can see a gentleman sitting at a desk, and this is what I would consider a stressed office worker's situation. It's a cake, and not totally realistic because that cake at the bottom said happy 21st birthday, and I've not seen my 21st birthday in quite a while, but I am a quintessential office worker in a sense. And there were several things about that person's situation that were familiar. He, of course, had the ubiquitous computer on his desk, which seems to dominate our lives. I mean, all day long, I'm in front of a computer, and if it's on the blink, then there's absolutely no way of getting work done. there was detritus papers scattered all over the desk, which no matter how neat or organized I try to be, things usually come undone. And the person, at least in my own mind, just seemed to be maybe a quintessential harassed office worker. So that's why I can somewhat identify with him. Mr. Table Topics Master.
All right. At this time, we're actually going to, I will actually call for 2 votes. First, let's find out. Timer, can you please tell us who qualified on time?
Yes, and of the 4 speakers, only 2 qualified. Dagan spoke for 1 minute, 45 seconds. I spoke for 1 minute, 34 seconds. Dev was 39 seconds, which is short of the 1 minute. Oh, and Karen, yours was 56 seconds, which was
Okay.
short of the, barely short of the 1 minute. So Dagan Newland and Mark Sims.
Okay. And did both of our qualifying speakers, Mark Sims and Dagan Newland, use the word of the day?
Mark Sims used it twice.
I think
Okay.
Dagan,
How about Dagan?
Dagan, you
I
used
think
it,
Dagan
right?
used- Yes. All right. At this time, I will ask that you cast 2 ballots. So first, we'll vote for the best speaker of table topics. And next, I will have everybody show their cake and share their screen of the cake that they either spoke about or the one that they were going to speak about. And then let's vote for the person that found the most unique cake or the most fascinating or your favorite cake in the 3 minutes that they went out cake shopping. So if everybody could just share their screen.
Can everybody share at the same time?
No.
Sadly, no, you can't share everybody at the same time. That does not
Oh,
work.
really?
Yeah,
I
no,
lost-
you can't do that.
I
Well, then
lost.
we'll just go in order. Everybody just show their screen for a short few
Yeah,
seconds.
or at least describe.
Well, we've already seen the people that spoke. Let's talk about the people that didn't speak.
Okay, so Mark Schroeder.
Oh, you do want to see the additional ones? Okay.
The one that you were going to use for table topics.
1 second, sharing. That one. A beach.
Oh, okay. All right. And our next person that did not speak on my screen, it looks like would be Rob Giles.
This was very appropriate. I'm a big UT fan. And although I don't think that badly of Sooners, this is a cake that I saw some time ago. And it's very appropriate because they play on Saturday. So
Oh, wow. Okay. In a bubble? All right.
Hey,
And-
Rob, that would be a great cake, but who would want to eat it?
right. I think those are milk duds. So if you like,
Well, yeah, but the thought is not appetizing.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of the kitty litter box cake. Feel free to, anybody wants to look up the kitty litter box cake. How about you, John?
I didn't find the cake. I don't eat cake anymore. I'm diabetic.
Oh, no. Okay. How about you, Tanya?
Karen and I are like-minded. I went for the bundt cake. My reason wasn't as honorable or worthy, just a great, moist, inexpensive cake that I love. And if you have a birthday, that's what you get. So,
nothing bunt cakes.
yes.
All right. At this time, I believe, Marcia, you just joined, correct? You didn't have a chance to find a cake.
Oh, I did. So I'm
Oh, you
gonna
did.
Awesome.
I'm gonna have to, throw up the finger. Those of you who are, raised in the church, so you know what I'm talking about when you raise your finger. I do apologize. I laid down
That's okay.
and just woke up. I
All
do.
right, not a problem. And alrighty. And so at this time, go ahead and vote for your favorite cake. And I will now go ahead and call or move the meeting over to our general evaluator, and I forget who that is.
General evaluator is going to be Dagan. And by the way, your votes, of course, go to Karen Lee.
All right. So as general evaluator, it's my job to, three parts is to have the evaluators do their evaluations of the speakers, and then give my evaluation of the meeting as a whole, then call upon the duty holders to give their reports on what they heard throughout the meeting. So first, we will go in that order. So first, we will call upon our evaluators to give their evaluations of the speakers. And the first evaluator tonight, who was evaluating the first speaker, is Rob Giles. So if Rob, can you give your evaluation of John's speech, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. And thank you, John, for a great toast. I thought it was an amazing job. I thought you did a fantastic job. I'm going to talk about a few things that I thought you did well, a couple of things that I thought you might be able to improve upon, and we'll go from there. First, I thought, one, that you had a good intro. You talked about some of the things that this particular person, at that point, we didn't know who it was, but you talked about a few things that kind of led us in one direction, which I thought was great too, that you gave us some anticipation, and that you talked about, virtual meetings, that he was helping out with virtual meetings and the website. And we kind of had an idea there of who it might be. And I thought that part of that was good lead up, and it was good build up for revealing who it was. So I thought you did a great job with leading up and building up with all these examples. You talked about a lot of positives, which is what the toast should be. And I thought you did a great job. You talked about inspiration and wit, and some of those things were great. You finally ended it with a good finish with leading the audience with the applause for this person, which ended up being Mark Schroeder. A few things that you might want to think about is for just maybe repetition, maybe go over the toast a few more times in your head, because there were a few times where you stumbled a little bit. One, you started off and you did have a little bit of a mumble at the beginning when you were first starting. That can be corrected just by being maybe sitting upright a little bit more, having a focused mind a little bit more for that. A couple other stumbles that you had were when you were talking about one of the phrases where you said, what appears to the outside world. And then you also initially said Mark Sims. I think that's a matter of practice with the toast, to be sure. One other thing that I thought you might think about doing is possibly including a little humor. And sometimes that can be maybe just a little bit of a negative that you can bring up that you might exaggerate, or something, and maybe not even a negative, but maybe something that Mark Schroeder does on a regular basis that we can all just chuckle or roll our eyes at. Something along those lines that you might be able to introduce into the toast as well. Overall, I think, one, you picked a good person to do it for, because there's a lot of great things that he's done for us. And I think that you built up and did a great job with leading the entire thing across from start to finish with the positives that Mark has done, and then leading us into the applause. So I think you did a fine job overall. Just think about those few points that I mentioned. And I think that the next time you'll do a little bit better job with that. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right, thank you, Rob. And our next evaluator tonight is going to be Tanya Howard, who is evaluating a Rob Giles speech. So Tanya, can you please give us your evaluation of Rob's speech?
Thank you. Rob, I've had the pleasure and the honor of evaluating your speeches before, and I was over here rooting that you would make your time tonight. Both fingers were crossed and my toes, because I really did not want to have to mention time as an area for improvement. And so I am not going to say anything about the time. But what I will say is that your topic was very timely, considering the type of environment that we're in right now, this election season, and fake news, the war on the press, and all of the things that are happening, and the topics that we're hearing just last night with the debates and about the policies. And you really kind of helped us to connect to that, just thinking about your opportunity to travel to Ukraine, and for all of us to be reflective about our freedom, and that we should be happy that we do have the freedoms that we have, and blessed. And that really came across in your speech tonight. Your goal was to work on vocal variety, and I think you definitely met that goal when you were saying specifically, wow, really, hateful words. You inflected and emphasized words throughout your speech, and you do a really great job of gesturing throughout your speech the whole time, that which also really emphasizes the words that you're saying, and your gestures connect very well with the words that you're saying. And the other thing that I noticed that you do very well is that you use the camera well. When you're emphasizing a point, you come a little bit closer to the camera, and then you kind of move back, which I think is a great tool, considering we don't have a stage to utilize that we might have in person. And so thank you for bringing your passion and really helping us all to be reflective about how important it is that we do have our freedoms in this country. And I really appreciate you speaking on this topic tonight. So great job with your speech. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right, thank you, Tanya. All right, so now I'm going to do my evaluation of the meeting as a whole. Then I will call upon the duty holders. So obviously we started a little late, but that's okay. Oh yes, we'll call for a vote. So timer, did both evaluators qualify on time?
Yes, both qualified. Rob spoke for 2 minutes and 54 seconds in his evaluation, and Tanya spoke for 2 minutes and 47 seconds.
All right, so take a moment and send your votes to Karen Lee for he thought was the best evaluator between Rob Giles and Tanya Howard. All right, so now I will continue on. Also we started a little late, but that's okay. I would have to, because we only had like 6-7 people at first. So I definitely would like to see more people that come in as well. So that was perfectly fine with me, and I think everybody else too. So that's okay. And the topic for the meeting tonight was definitely interesting, and it's nice to see all those cakes, and so there's some pretty talented people out there on how they can actually make those cakes look so real. So, it's really good to see that. And all the duty holders, I think, did pretty good explaining their roles. And I know that we had to shift some people around, so it was good on Mark's shortest part on getting those filled too while we were waiting to start the meeting. So that's great. And as for the speakers, John, I do kind of agree with what Ross said about your speech, but I also want to say that you mentioned that you said sorry and while you're speaking, just never want to say you're sorry, just keep on going. But otherwise, it's a really great speech. And tell you the truth, when we first started talking, I thought you were talking about Rob. but then later on, the more you spoke, then I realized it was Mark Schroeder, especially when you talked about the website stuff. And Rob, your speech was really great too. But I did have a question. This may sound like an odd question. Are you on a phone, tablet, or laptop?
Laptop.
Okay. And do you have any notes to the side of you that you're looking at?
I have some, yeah. and have some of them writing as well.
Yeah, that's what I figured because I kept noticing your eyes kept looking that way, darting to myself. So I know if you have a laptop, you might could have like hung your nose in front, but not obviously not for the camera, but right over the top of the laptop, so they'd be more in front of you. That way you wouldn't have to look over so much.
Right.
But otherwise, great speech, and I loved it. League table topics. Thought that was a pretty good idea. Have everybody go. Look. It obviously fit with the theme. Have everybody look for a cake that suited them, and then if they were called upon, had to talk about it. So that was really great and interesting. And as for evaluators, Rob, great evaluation. You told us how you're going to do it. Gave good feedback. Gave some pointed, some information about how John did good, and then gave some pointers that proved, and of course wrapped it up with the one really good pointer on how he did great. And Tanya, at the beginning of your evaluation, you did not tell us how you're going to evaluate. So just kind of remember, mention how you're going to evaluate, what how you're going to do the evaluation. But and you also mentioned time, which of course Rod's always guilty about that time thing. But I'd also like to see, you only gave kind of really the time for improvement and gave a whole bunch of stuff that he did great. So I'd almost like to see a little bit more stuff that maybe Rod could improve on for the evaluation. So otherwise, I think we had a really great meeting. So we're going to move on to the duty holders for the night. So our first duty holder, obviously we did not have a posture bell this time, which is really almost kind of halfway, because you only see the upper half anyway. But so our first duty holder tonight was going to be the odd counter, which I believe was Rob that was doing that. So can you give us your report on odd counting, Rob, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. As odd counter, I noticed that we had a few ums and uhs here and there. That was the biggest thing for mostly everybody. I had one from Mark Schroeder, one during your description, Karen, at the beginning of the meeting. Lee, again, uncharacteristically, you had an during your table topics. Devon, you had a couple of ums during your topic speech. Dagan, both during your topic speech as well as during your general evaluator, you had a handful of uhs, and your crutch, which I believe that this, is which is kind of ironic how I introduced that, but you had an extremely large amount of those. So I would perhaps look back at the recording and take a look at it, and then that might motivate you a little bit, but consider that as well. Karen, I think I mentioned this as well. You had an during table topics. Tanya, you probably heard me click during your evaluation, although I greatly appreciate it. You did have one and one and beyond that, everybody was good. I didn't hear anything else. So back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right, thank you, Rob. So I guess these are our last duty holder as our grammarian, Karen Lee. So Karen, can you please give us the grammarian's report?
Mr. Evaluator, we had some interesting slips which were very comical tonight, especially when Mark Sims went into giving the timing requirements, I think, for Rob's speech. Said he was going to speak for 30 minutes. I didn't hear it, but Lee did. So I'm glad that he called it out, because I laughed so much I had tears in my eyes. And it's a good thing to laugh. And let's see. The best uses of the English language a lot of them came from Rob's speech. And I lost count. I was writing so much. Ostracized, stifled. The word that you used in the Ukraine for what people couldn't say, it sounded like it started with a P, but I couldn't understand it. P something.
Holodomor.
Oh, Holodomor. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The dialogue word, dialogue, ideology, ideologies hateful, resist, erode, liberty, just many others. Why can't we just all get along? Imperative or imperative. I'm not sure I understood it correctly. Mark Sims used ubiquitous and in his table topic, and twice he used quintessential. So that's my report. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right, thank you, Karen. So that's going to wrap up the general evaluator section of the meeting. So I'll call on our last vote of the meeting, which is the vote of the big three. So that'll be between our Toastmaster, Mark Schroeder, our table topic master, Lee King, and general evaluator, me, Dagan Newland. So please send those votes to Karen Lee. Then I will now turn it over to our president of our club, Mark Sims.
Actually, I'd like to have it back for just one quick second
Okay,
before we start our business meeting.
Mark Schroeder.
Primarily, I just wanted to point out one other little bitty thing. I want to take a teeny bit of credit. Everybody seemed to like the idea of the cake thing. I wanted you to know that I could have picked Squid and Cuttlefish Day instead, which is on the same day. I don't think that would have gone over anywhere near as well. Or I could have gone back to Salmon Day, which was actually today, or World Octopus Day. And so I had some really comparatively awful choices that would have made for an awful meeting, even though you could have gotten an octopus cake out of it. That's it. And with that, Mark Sims.
Thank you, Mark. And at this point, we want to conduct our business meeting. For starters, we want to congratulate Deb that we voted her in as a new member last week. So thank you, Deb, for the confidence you placed in us. And we look forward to seeing you grow and just enjoy your time here with us. And also want to recognize our guest, Portia. And I'm Mark Sims. I'm the club president. And would you like to tell us just a little about yourself? If you've been at Toastmasters before and what brings you to our club?
Okay, sure. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I've been in Toastmasters, like, oh my gosh, it's been years. At my old company, I used to do it in a corporate level. And so I wanted to just join now because I figured this would be a good way to just kind of eliminate some of those us, like I just said. I really want to work on that, like not having the fillers and the us and all of that. So I just said it again. I think that's going to be really beneficial for me. I do have a background in marketing, and I live pretty close to Ozona, so I figured this would be a good club for me because I live literally like 5 minutes from there. So I figured when things get back to normal, it'd be pretty convenient for me to get to. So yeah, just really looking forward to learning more about the changes because it's been years. So I talked to Mark Schroeder. We talked on the phone last week, and he gave me a whole rundown of all the new things like the pathways and all that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of digging more into those things, but thank you.
Thank you. And definitely, we would want you to be part of our club. We greatly appreciate being able to see you every week. And you may probably figured this out if you've been in Toastmasters before and you remember all the applause. The best we can do now, since most of us are muted, was to make the hand gestures, which is a symbol for applause. So that's why we were doing that. And as you pointed out, when we do get back to zonas, it'd be just a more traditional supportive hand clap after the speakers.
Okay.
And speaking of the zonas, thank you, Mark, for sharing the response you got from the management at Zonas. that they're not to put out with us not being back there prior to year end. So that is good news to have. And
Just a quick, yeah,
hopefully-
just a quick note. In fact, that only went to the officers. Not everybody else has seen that, but
Oh, okay.
yes, I did contact Ozonas and they understand. They recognize that we have probably a 20-year relationship with them, and they say we will always have a home there. So they're being really nice about this.
That's great to hear, because Portia and Dev, when y'all get to attend there at Zonas, it's a big room that we're in. Usually, once in a while, we're bumped out of it, but it's a very nice stage too. So it really gives you a great similarity to actually speaking to a group. I also want to note that we had our area contest on Saturday, and we were very, very well represented there. Lee King won the prize as the best evaluator, so he will go forward and compete in the division contest. Karen Lee won the humorous speech competition. Likewise, she will continue in the division contest. And I believe that's going to be in the latter part of October. I went on the website, couldn't nail it down for sure, but it looked like later in the month. But in
October the
addition-
24th. We just don't know the time.
Okay, thank you. In addition, Rob was the sergeant at arms. I was a ballot counter, and I saw that Mark Schroeder was in attendance. So we had great representation that day. And before we get to the winners of the competitions tonight, I do not have any other business to bring up. Does anyone else?
Sure. I will show the cake that was most famous in my Boy Scout group.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Thank you, Lee. We greatly appreciate it.
I could have actually shown some of the other ones that I discarded tonight, it looks like.
I would hate to see the ones you discarded. And at this point, Karen Lee, please disclose to us who the winners are of the competitions.
Gather myself back together. Okay, John Vessels, by the process of elimination, is best speaker. Best table topics. Just based on the votes, not the separate, there's separate categories based on the cake category and the table topic category. So for best table topic, Dagan Newland. Best cake, Mark Schroeder. And best evaluator, Tanya Howard. And that's it.
Best of the big three, Karen.
Uh-oh. Give me a minute.
Okay.
Oh, Mark
Actually,
Schroeder.
Dagan.
Yes, sir.
The armadillo cake was in Steel Magnolias.
Steel Magnolias, you're
Oh.
right, not fried green tomatoes.
Yeah.
You are correct, sir. That was still just such an amazing scene. I still remember the scene. I just don't remember. Those two movies blend together so badly for me. It's hard to keep them separated.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cake that I picked was kind of plain, but I found some really awesome looking Christmas cakes, but not one that had, symbolized Christmas and birthday, because that's the only one I could find in the amount of time. So
Yeah, I'm amazed that you found one that was just so perfect for you. That was classic.
Okay, Mr. Toastmaster and Mr. President, the best of the big three is Mark Schroeder.
Mm.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank y'all all very much. And I hope everyone has a great weekend.
All right, you too.
Thank you all. As Zoom coordinator, I will stop the recording in 3, 2, 1.